Oh,
Now it's recording, great.
let me see. I'm going to accept them.
Perfect. Hello already.
Good morning.
Welcome, everyone. We will start in just a minute. We are just making sure that everybody is in the room. If you would like to introduce yourself so we know where you're joining from, feel free to do that on the chat. Ah, from Finland, super nice.
Welcome, Pia.
Hey. So you can already make yourselves as comfortable as you can be to really enjoy this webinar. We just let everyone in. Hi, Agapi. So nice to see you.
Good morning. Nice to see you.
Good morning, Agapi.
Johanna and Cindy and everyone.
Hi, there's another Johanna. How nice.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah, very nice to meet you. Where are you joining from?
From Berlin.
Ah, very nice. I'm in Brussels, and I think Agapi and Cindy from ICCAWebinar, you are both in the Netherlands, no?
Yes, indeed, in
Yeah.
Amsterdam.
Are you in the same office now?
Not now, but yeah, in the same office. Yeah. Okay,
Yesterday
Johanna.
was also the King's Day, so most of the people today are working from home. It's very quiet outside.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that we can start, Johanna.
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. So good morning, everyone, for those who are in Europe. And thank you very much for joining and taking part of this, our second webinar of the year. We're really excited that we're doing these sessions this year. My name is Cindy Ceros, and I am part of the education team. I am the impact coordinator and education at ICA, and thank you so much for being here today. For today's session, I will kindly ask you to please keep your microphones muted during the whole presentation. But if you have any question, you can raise your hand or you can write them in the chat, whichever feels more comfortable for you. I will be reading the questions for you at the end of the webinar. Now, without any further delay, I would like to, I'm pleased to invite our speaker, Johanna, to begin the presentation. Johanna, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I'm super happy to be here. I will quickly share my screen. Yeah. Can you see it? It's okay.
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
Perfect. Yeah, so as Cindy said, I'm really looking forward to your questions, so feel free to ask them at any point. Just to quickly introduce myself and why I'm presenting today on this topic. So I'm Johanna Roodt. As I mentioned already, I'm based in Brussels. I'm originally from Hamburg in Germany. And I'm working, or I'm kind of ICCA's well-being consultant. And together we made, I don't know if some of you have seen it, maybe if you work for associations, actually a toolkit for well-being also in associations. So if you haven't seen that yet and you want to look a bit more into the topic, I really recommend that you look for that. You can also ask on the chat, then I'm sure we can link it for you. That's a really, really good resource and might be very helpful for you. But of course, when we speak about well-being in events, it's not just for associations, it's really for everyone in the event industry. So, and I'll share about that in today's webinar. So to tell you a bit more about me, apart from supporting ICCA in terms of well-being and making that toolkit, long before now I'm working on the one hand for an association where I'm the head of events, communications, and engagement. So I'm there leading a team, and we are organizing all events throughout the year, including a very big congress once a year. That's always somewhere else in Europe. Actually, this year in the Netherlands, in Utrecht. And I am also, at the same time, I have my own business that I co-founded, where we work on well-being in events. And actually, long before I started to work for the association where I now work, I've been very passionate about people and how they are and their well-being. So actually, I used to work in recruitment, so supporting people there grow their careers. I used to be a school teacher, and at that time also a staff and student well-being representative. And then I've also for many years now been a mental health first aider. I'm not sure if you ever heard of this. So of course, everyone knows about first aid. So if someone gets hurt, we help. But there's also training you can take in mental health first aid. So there to really help if someone is overwhelmed or has a mental health crisis. We will talk about that a bit more later on in this webinar. But yeah, so I actually got trained for this during COVID because it felt like a really useful thing at that time. And I've also been a coach now for 10 years, supporting people with career transitions, with finding their, especially in work, their happiness kind of, and now also support many in events and associations. And then when I started to work at my association now about 5.5 years ago, I noticed that associations have small teams and not the highest budget. So there is a lot of pressure on the small team, of course, to perform, to do a lot of work, a lot of jobs in each person. And if we want to change anything for our events, for example, bring well-being, there's not really an extra big budget that we can use for that, but we kind of have to make do with what we have. And of course, associations already have a mission. So also we have to fit any well-being initiatives around that mission, because first we need to fulfill our standard that we always fulfill at our events. So that was a nice challenge. And that kind of taught me how, I had to be creative together with my team, how we can bring well-being to our events without changing too much and without too many extra people and too much extra budget. Now in 2024, I was also working as a consultant actually for a big event agency in Brussels. And there I noticed that a lot of young event professionals already in their 20s had or were near burnout or were really struggling with the pressures of organizing events. So I realized that it's very important for people in the event industry that we actually take care of them so that they can be happy in their jobs long term and it's a sustainable career. So with this in mind, about 1.5 years ago, together with the co-founder of Event Mental Wellbeing, or Dio Consulting, we started to develop actually a program, a training for anyone in any area of the events industry, really, to learn on the one hand, how can they take care of themselves as people working in events? So how can you all take care of your own well-being, spot stress early, not even reach burnout? If you're leading a team, how to take care of the team and so on. But on the other hand, also how to bring well-being to the events. So how to bring it to attendees without too many changes, without too much extra budget, in a very practical way. And this training we now run online, in person, and we also have an e-learning that's self-paced, where you can see the code here. But let me tell you a little bit what we mean when we speak about well-being actually at events, because I think sometimes it's maybe not clear all the things that it encompasses, because now, of course, we see at many events already for some years, maybe, that things like yoga sessions or morning runs or something might be added to events, which of course is really nice, because it's nice to have the opportunity to not just go into educational sessions, but to also move your body and meet people maybe in this way. But of course, if we think about it, if your event only offers, for example, what you call well-being early in the morning and in a sporty way, it's maybe not for everyone, right? Because often at events, we have long dinners or parties in the evening. Sleep is also important. And then maybe the next morning, who gets up early actually to go to yoga? maybe only very few people of your event actually brought their yoga things or like yoga. And also, yeah, running is maybe not for everyone. So of course, it can be a nice thing to add it to your event. But what we are, I think, standing for is really that on top of that, there are things that we can do that just catch more people and have a bigger well-being effect. So again, here with one of relaxation perks, maybe it's nice to have if you have one little breathing session. But what I will show you in this webinar is also things that you can do that are not a once-off, but that kind of carry through the whole event. It's also nice, of course, if we have budget to have a beautiful wellness space, but we don't always have the space available or the budget available. So yeah, let's look into things that we can do even if we don't have that available. And then, of course, as an individual, also at an event, you might be very good because at taking care of yourself. So maybe you're someone who is very aware of your own well-being, and you know, okay, if I'm not feeling good, I just take a moment to breathe, or I check in which parts of my body might be tense and I relax them. But not everyone, of course, has those strategies and knows how to do it. So we are trying to do things that work for everybody. So some ideas are already here on the right side, where it says more like this. So for example, every event normally includes, of course, well-being moment, well-being hopefully as well, but networking moments. And often we are invited to network, and we might be in a room, we are given a drink, and now we can talk to everyone. But I'm sure all of you have been in this situation. Now you're standing there in the room and you're like, okay, do I know anyone? Who can I talk to? And what topics can I talk about? And even it's always meant in a good way. It's not always easy to actually go and network, or not just go to the one person you know and talk to that group and stay there. Yeah, so of course it's nice to consider, for example, those kind of moments and think about how can we make it easier for introverts, extroverts, everyone present to network in a more comfortable way. So for example, you can put little cards if you want with prompts that people can talk about, or if you have an app, maybe you have a little quiz or a game that they can do together, or you say people have to find someone who wears a certain thing or shares a certain characteristic. If you just do it orally, there are a lot of things we can do, but it's always a nice thing to consider, because these are often moments that are awkward or difficult for people attending events. I'm sure all of you have felt it at some moment. And then I have listed here also various options of engagement. Sometimes we only, if we want to, for example, ask a question or really contribute or be part of a session, often there's only one option. So for example, you can ask for the mic and ask a question, or maybe there's Slido and you can ask, or another tool like that, and you can ask questions in that way. I think it's always nice to give various options how people can ask their questions or get involved, so that you can try to catch as many people as possible. So sometimes, as a little example, it can be nice that you first say maybe for a couple of minutes, turn around to the person behind you or next to you, speak to them on the question, because a lot of people actually like to engage more one-on-one than speaking in front of a huge group. So you could do that they first engage around where they are sitting, and then from there, then maybe people can bring it to the room who really feel like it. But then those who had or everyone had already the chance to engage around their seat with those sitting close to them, which means they could not be asleep in this session. They had to also think about the topic, so it catches more people, and they had the chance actually to exchange and hear also someone else's opinion and put their own thoughts into words. So that's just a little example, but to consider those things is always nice. And then as the third thing here, I have well-being as part of the agenda, not early only. By that, I mean what I already said, not just early in the morning, but to have moments all throughout where people have the opportunity to do something to be well. And then lastly, also to consider well-being really in all decisions that you make for the event. And that I will show on a bit more on this slide. And this slide, it's really this technique that I will share with you now. It's really gold. So listen carefully, because this can make a huge difference for your events. Because of course, when we attend an event, we as attendees experience the event in different moments. So what I would like to show you here is something that you can use in future for any event that you organize, no matter the size, no matter how many attendees you are expecting, no matter where and what you are organizing, even theoretically for an online event like this. This technique is called basically participant journey. And the idea is that we think about one participant persona. So for example, here I'm thinking about a first-time attendee. And we think about how this person will feel. And we start already before the event. So we are looking even at the pre-event time. How might they experience all the emails we are sending them? We put ourselves into their shoes and we imagine, okay, if we send them only one email, for example, do they have all info? Maybe not. If we send them a ton of emails, might they feel overwhelmed because they just get so many emails that they in the end don't even know anymore in which email they find the information that they need at what moment. For example, the QR code to get into the event. So really thinking about, if you're there, if you're coming for the first time, what information do you need? Maybe they need really information how to get to the venue. Maybe they want to really understand how your particular event works. And you think about all the different things. You can do it alone, or you can do it with your team if you have a team. And if you spot things that would be really helpful for them that you're not yet doing, then of course you can try to do them in order to make their experience as good as possible. Then you think also during the event when they arrive, what might they need if they are there for the first time? What would help them to have the best possible arrival at your event? And then going through your event, how can you support them in the best way? When might they feel excited? When could they potentially get lost? And what can you put in place for them to have the best experience? Same after the event. How might they feel about the feedback survey? Can you make sure that it's not 100 questions, but like a good number of questions that you really need answered so they don't feel overwhelmed still after? How many emails can you send them without feeling annoyed? What kind of things would help a first-time attendee, even post-event, that they feel your event was particularly well organized? And then if you like, of course, you can do this for other personas that you expect will attend your event as well. So probably you have some people that have attended your event already many, many times, that are maybe even very experienced in the field. So put yourselves into their shoes and think about how will they feel pre-event. Might something be too much information to send them because they already know it? Or are there new things that you're doing this time that they might be surprised about because they haven't been there in the past? And how can you share it with them in a good way pre-event? And then during the event, are you offering things that are actually really needed for this group? Because of course they have completely different expectations in your event than someone who would be there for the first time or maybe for the second time. And also post-event, how can you make their experience good? So yeah, for every event, of course, there are different personas. I think first-time attendee is probably always there, and someone who's been there many times also. But you probably have some other groups that apply for your particular event that would be useful to do this journey with. And it's really fun, actually, if you really actually draw it on a piece of paper. So if your team, or well, if you're alone, you can, of course, do that. If your team works in the same place, you can also do it. And otherwise, maybe you find a way to do it online together. But like this, you can make events really special because you're taking care of their journey and ensuring that they have as little stress as possible and as many moments of joy or feeling this event is designed for me, for my needs as possible. And of course, you can also afterwards do it for your team, actually. So now we spoke about attendees, but if you think about your team as well, like you can think about, when do I normally get stressed pre-event? What are moments that really stress me, where I'm already now worried maybe how I can handle those moments before my event? And you can discuss it with your team. What are moments where they normally feel stressed? Maybe you all have the same ones. Maybe you have different ones. And then you can try together to see How can we make sure that each of us has less moments of stress, more moments of joy? And how can we make the stressful moments that maybe we can't avoid as positive as possible for all of us? How can we help each other to have the best experience? And the same during the event. When are we normally the most stressed? Maybe you're very stressed that registration will be smooth. So think about how are we planning this registration? What can we put in place for the registration, as an example, to go as smoothly as possible? For example, maybe you take an extra host, or you add an extra queue, or whatever you can think about to make it easier. And then go through your whole agenda and look together when might be moments that can be stressful for our team, and how can we avoid them, or just split the tasks better or make it easier for all of us. And then also post-event, how can you make sure that your team has the best experience? So yeah, a super simple tool, doesn't cost anything to do it, but can really, really help instead of just, putting everything in place and never really thinking, how is everyone, including me, doing at all moments? So yeah, I hope this is something that is of interest and can help you a lot for your future events. I listed here 6 things that, maybe some of them I've already covered, let's see, but that I think can really help the well-being throughout the events. So I think you already noticed now that with well-being, really, we don't just mean one little moment, but really the whole experience. So, and for the whole experience, what is important, for example, is the agenda, right? Point 1 here. If the agenda is not clear, for the well-being is already reduced, because every participant is trying to figure out, where do I need to be, when, what do I need to bring, how do I get my badge, how do I find who, and so on. So even the agenda is an important part of everyone's well-being, including us as organizers. Wayfinding, of course, if signage is not clear, or then of course our well-being is reduced, because we are running around trying to find where to go, but we can't find it. Then the transitions and pacing. Sometimes it's really one session after the other, and we are just running. We are like, oh God, now I was in this side of the building. The next session is on the completely other side, or even in another building, and we are running there. Of course, this impacts our well-being, because we don't have any moment in between, maybe to calmly go to the bathroom or take a coffee or talk to a friend, because we are just running. So if you can avoid running between sessions at your event, you've already improved well-being a lot. So as an example, for our association conference that happens in Utrecht next month, we've decided to make buffers between sessions. Last year at our event, our sessions were really 60 minutes long, the longer ones, and then the short ones 30 minutes long. And then of course in the morning we had a coffee break also at a moment, then we had a lunch break, and we had a coffee break in the afternoon. But because our attendees switch a lot between rooms, we noticed that when there's no coffee break or lunch break between sessions, they're really rushing, and they get really stressed if a speaker doesn't finish completely on time. And even for the speakers, it's stressful, because if another session runs over, their session might start late, and so on. So now this year, the short sessions are 25 minutes. So people have 5 minutes in between to go to another room. And the long sessions are 50 minutes. So that everyone always has the little moment of peace to change room and for the speaker to get ready. And of course, I haven't seen it happen yet, but I think it will make a big difference. We will see next month, because people have to run less. And also for our team, of course, if there was a technological issue or something, we actually have a couple of minutes to sort it out or to inform someone. Then as the third point here, I put optional participation. I think sometimes for people, it can feel a lot of pressure that you have to be everywhere. So if you can make things optional, for example, networking moments and so on, where it's very, very clear, it's not expected and it's really no problem, you are not there. Just knowing that it's really optional can make a big difference for your attendees. And again, even for your team, maybe if you have new people on the team, they might think I absolutely have to be at the dinner, even I might not have a role there, because everyone is going there. But to say, really, look, if you feel tired, please don't come. Just rest, eat in your room, it's fine. I think sometimes just speaking these things out and people knowing them helps. Visible support points. I think most events that we go to, we don't know where to go if we really have an issue. So we might go to the info counter, but they might not be equipped. So having spots where people know they can go when they have an issue that they feel overwhelmed or something like this, it's also nice. And then permission to step out. I think this also makes a difference also in small events. If you think about there's a room with 20 people or something, for example, and you think, oh, I really need to go outside, I have an urgent call, or I need to go to the bathroom, but I should be here because everyone is so concentrated and I don't want the speaker to feel bad and think that I don't like their session or something like this. It's nice if right in the beginning you, or as the moderator maybe, or the organizer or the speaker says, look, if you need to go out or you need to get up and stand or you need anything, please do it because we really want you to be well. I won't be offended. Walk to the back of the room, do what you need to do, look at your phone if you have kids in school that might call, so that just people feel, okay, I don't need to pretend, I don't need to just sit here super still. I can still be myself and I can follow my needs, even though I care about the session. And then, of course, food, hydration, rest rhythms, super important when we think about well-being at events. If we serve only burgers and cakes, probably people will not be as well as if we give a lot of healthy options. I think you've all probably attended an event where afterwards you felt really bloated, you felt really like, oh my God, I've been only inside and I've eaten only unhealthy things. And you've been at other events where there was daylight, where there were opportunities to be outside, to move and to eat healthy things, and you felt completely differently. And this, of course, we can try to create in our events. And then already we've done a big part for well-being. Water should always be available. And another thing for well-being for food that maybe often is forgotten is it's not only the healthy food available, but it's also that food is, of course, very clearly labeled. Every month I attend at least one event where it's not clearly labeled. And I don't have dietary requirements, so for me it's okay. But because I'm aware of this, I immediately notice. And if I had a dietary requirement, I would be lost, because very often it doesn't say clearly in also the language that everyone can understand what is in the food. And of course, if you have a strong allergy, you really need to know. So make super sure and that it's there. I mean, I think we always assume, but the caterer, it's their specialty. They must know, they must put it. They are catering events all the time. But how often does it happen that the catering doesn't actually put it and make it super clear? So that helps, of course, a lot because it impacts your well-being if you have a big allergy or a dietary requirement, and you every time need to find catering, need to ask, sorry, I can't eat this and I don't know, and so on. Then you feel stressed, of course, as that attendee, right? Because you don't easily find your food. And maybe you feel awkward to speak up and you can't stay with your group of friends because you're searching your food. So make sure even of that. And also it's really nice, of course, if people with dietary requirements, with allergies can eat from the same buffet as their friends. Because if they need to go somewhere else and they are in a different corner, they are separated from the group. And it again creates a separation. And of course, at our events, we want to create inclusion, not separation as much as possible. So also important points for food. Then this is a part that is very often not covered, I would say, in event teams, which is, of course, as event professionals of any type, we are not, and whether we work for a venue, a convention bureau, association, doesn't matter. We are, of course, not therapists. That's clear. We don't need to be therapists either. If we are, great, but really not necessary. But of course, it's really, really helpful if we know how to respond if there is a mental health crisis, because even if we have first aid on site, or maybe at a big event, even an ambulance maybe, or a whole medical team, it doesn't mean that these people are available to help with mental health needs, because they are maybe stationed somewhere. People don't go there if they feel overwhelmed. They are more there in case someone has a heart attack or really a medical issue of that kind. And normally it's our team. And meaning like those at reception, us walking around, the people that they know who are from the event organization that actually face these issues, right? Because people will come to us, and then it's very good if we know how to respond. So I really recommend to every one of you, if you're not trained in mental health first aid, that you and your whole team, or as many people of your team as possible, get trained. Of course, you can take a mental health first aid course. Or if you want to, of course, you are more than invited to take our event mental well-being training that, as you saw on the first slide, where you could scan the QR code, exists now also as a self-paced e-learning that you can take really at your own pace anytime. Because what we try to do actually is translate, let's say, the normal mental health first aid course to this industry. Because if you take the standard one that I took in COVID, you learn everything also about how to help someone who might be suicidal or with schizophrenia and all kinds of things. And you really learn about a lot of mental health conditions, which is super, super interesting. But we know we are super busy, and mostly we need to know what really applies to our events, to our work. That's why we made a course that applies directly to our industry, no matter in which part of it you work. And we also know that people in events often are busy traveling and so on. And it's very difficult to find a moment where your whole team is available to take a course at once, or even for you to be available exactly at the dates that a course runs. That's why we have the e-learning that you can take at any time. And if you're interested, actually, you can, if you want, put on the chat, because we have a ICCA 25% discount. So if you want to look into it, of course, no obligation, you can check it out. But there you can learn really how to notice, even if someone is not well, how to then respond, and when also you need to refer someone, because of course there are always issues that we can't solve, and it would be even dangerous for you to try to give the right advice if someone is really, really not doing well at your event. So yeah, this helps, of course, a lot. Then next, I would like to talk really about the team behind events. So all of you, I guess. So as you know, when we are organizing events, we have there's high visibility, right? Because everyone sees if we make a mistake. If we forgot a big part of the organization, let's say we don't put signage where it's absolutely needed, every person is lost. Or we forget to really make clear at what time the coffee break will be, and at that time there is no coffee break, directly a big issue, and so on. So everything we do has high visibility, and of course that puts pressure, because people see our mistakes, and not just one person, but normally a lot of people. Our timelines are very fast, so also especially close to an event, a lot of things change. Everything is tight, and we are trying to make things happen at all hours. So a lot of pressure on us. Constant change, I already said. And now more recently, of course, we have also the geopolitical situation that puts pressure. A lot of budgets are cut. But even with all the cut budgets, we also these days have so many expectations, because as we are talking about in this webinar, even well-being is an expectation that in the past maybe wasn't an expectation so much. Inclusion, really making sure that everyone is taken care of, is an expectation. Then we have all of the new tools and AI and sustainability. So we have to do a million things with little budget. And of course, all of that puts pressure on us, and maybe keeps us awake at night or worries us on a daily basis. But of course, events, it's not helpful if we just organize good events for our attendees, but our team is suffering in the background. So, and this is also covered in the e-learning and in everything we share, and also in the association toolkit that we made for ICCA. It's really, really important also to take care of the team, of all of us. And you might feel sometimes that you are alone with all the pressure that you feel, but it's really everyone. So you can be assured it's not just you. We all deal with the compressed timelines, with having to communicate all the time. Often we work even between different time zones and have meetings at in the evening and so on, and try to balance all of that. Then sometimes it might happen that there are uneven workloads in the team. Some people have a lot, some people have less. And then you might also face that you have a lot of events, right? I think many of you probably don't have just one event and then you relax. No, then you're preparing for the next event, probably, or you are even preparing for multiple events at once, and how to balance all of that. So then, of course, it's difficult to have recovery in between. And often we have a lot of responsibility. Everything feels like it's on our shoulders. So of course, what does this create? Fatigue builds up, because maybe when you're starting a new job, it's still okay. But then you're doing it for some months, some years, and you had little breaks in between. So you are not feeling better, but it's like now you have so much stress built up. It's been a long time of not sleeping well, of not taking care, or having the opportunity to take care of yourself. And that, of course, at some point can then lead to a burnout or to escalation, because it's just too much. Often we have not much clarity. Clarity is a big driver of well-being. We talked about for our attendees, they need clarity with the agendas, with where to go, who to meet when, and so on. But we also need as much clarity in our team, in our work as possible, so that we can be able to make good decisions. So, for example, very clear reporting lines, very clear who decides about which budget, and so on. So there, to put things into place, of course, is very helpful. And of course, if, as I mentioned, stress has built up for so long and it's already weighing on you like a lot of bricks on your back or something, then your resilience also reduces, and even a small problem can feel large. And if somebody says, for example, oh, why did you not order, I don't know, cake also for the break? Then you might feel directly like, oh my God, my world is ending. I made a huge mistake. But actually it's a small one, but you just have so much pressure that you hear it as if it's a huge issue. And it might lead to that you are surviving rather than thriving, and just continuing, but never really reaching a good, relaxed point. So what we are recommending, and what you can find more of in the toolkit and in the e-learning, is that we believe that event mental well-being, or event team well-being, is shaped across the whole event cycle. This means that there are a lot of things you can put in place already in the general working time. Because how you work together with your colleague plays a huge part in your well-being, right? If you and your colleagues don't get along well, or even if there's just one colleague that you're constantly clashing with, your well-being is impacted, and you might take it into your evening, you might take it into your weekend. So how you communicate with each other in your team, with your colleagues, is a huge part of your well-being, right? If you are working in a team where it's like, you didn't do this, why? What's happening? How can we solve this huge issue? Then it's very difficult for you to be well. If it's a team where everyone feels like we are a group, and if someone makes a mistake, we all fix it together and we don't blame and we support each other, of course, it's a whole different work experience, right? If you know that in your team, you can openly say, I'm not feeling well, I need help, then of course you enjoy your job much more than if you work in a team where you don't dare to speak up and say, I need help. I need others to support me. Please, can you help me with this task? So just to establish good communication, and of course their leadership is very important, and what the leaders put in place makes a huge difference for the well-being of everyone. As a second point, pre-event, making realistic timelines. I think sometimes we think, oh, I can do all of these things, and you put so many things on your to-do list, and then the day ends and you haven't done half of them. Of course, you feel super stressed. You don't know how to go into your evening. You are not relaxing. You might be talking at home still about all of the things you weren't able to do, or you continue to work until late. So really to think about, what can I realistically do in this day? And then what do I absolutely have to do to end this day in the normal working hours in a good way? And what are optional things that I can do if I finish quickly, or that I can also do another day, right? And really plan there, and don't set completely unrealistic targets for yourself. And again, hopefully you work in a team where if you notice that there are things you absolutely need to do that day or that week that is completely impossible for you to do, that you can speak up and that you can share the tasks more evenly among the team. During the event as well, we spoke, for example, about food. If you make sure that your attendees have nice food, but you are just running and you never manage to eat, and finally you eat only sweets in the background somewhere, of course, your well-being is probably not well. It's not good during the event, right? if you make sure that your attendees have those minutes in between sessions, but you don't make a plan that you ever have even a 10-minute break in the day, probably your well-being isn't good. So really, even if it's a very busy event, it should be possible for you to have a healthy snack at some point. It should be possible for you to have some moments to breathe. And hopefully you have a team that supports each other, that if you notice that one of you is not doing well, even if everything was set in place, but just on that day, it's not their day, that you are able to step in and say, look, take a break, take a shower, I don't know, come back when you're ready, and you take it over. And that you really consider also, how can we create the good experience for your team? As we already said a bit earlier in this webinar, if you can make it optional for them to skip a dinner just to have one early night, if it's a multiple day event, think about those things, that everyone has some moments of peace, even at the busiest time of the year. And then post-event, of course, as well, very important, that you make sure that they are not expected the next day to work again at early in the morning, but that you give them a break, ideally without them having to take their holidays, but really that you just really, that they know they are appreciated for putting in extra hours pre-event, during the event, and that it's seen what they do. Like just being seen, I think, makes a huge difference for people as well. If you feel you have to constantly like prove, but I'm working hard and so on, of course, it's difficult. Hopefully your management sees, okay, event teams are really stretched during events and they need to, after, have a break, and it shouldn't be their holiday. It should be really to make extra hours given to them to take off, to make up for the difficult work in the event phases. Yeah, and then of course it helps also after, actually at all these phases, to have moments of checking in how people are doing. Pre-event, do you feel supported? How can we help you better, for each of you, including yourself? During the event as well, how is everyone doing? Taking these mini moments to check in and to help if needed. And after the event, also giving people the opportunity to reflect together. Not just how did the catering work, but how did the event feel for you? How can we do it better next time, that each of us feels better? That makes really a difference for you and your team. Of course, we speak about a lot of well-being things, and maybe all of them seem inspirational for you, or you want to do all of them. Don't blame yourself if you can't do all. Of course, different events and in different teams, different things are possible. But just check what works for my event, what works for my team. Here I have 3 things. For example, at least adding one realistic buffer in the time zone that is non-negotiable. So for example, making sure that everyone on your team has a 30-minute lunch break or something. That could be something you say, no matter how busy, we do this because we care about everyone's well-being, as one little thing. Or you let people, even just if you don't have the 30 minutes, a few minutes outside to actually see the sun shine, recover and go back in. As a second thing, one communication boundary. Like there also, you might think if you send someone emails on a Sunday, oh, but they know they don't have to reply on a Sunday, but maybe they don't know. So just making clear, you know, even if I might be sending you an email, especially if you're the leader, after hours or on a Sunday, don't reply. It's fine that you do it in the working hours. It is not expected. Even that can help your team a lot, because otherwise they might just feel a lot of pressure to reply. And yeah, it can lift some bricks off their loaded shoulders. And as the third one, I love this one, introducing a capacity check-in, where really I do it with my team normally once a week, where we check in and everyone honestly says, and we have very nice open communication, I'm at this week, and we look at each of our week's schedule, I'm at 80%. That means, for example, if somebody is at 120%, they can give hopefully some little tasks to that person that is only at 80%. And finally, we can try to equal out the workload. So you don't have 1 or 2 people or any number of people that is totally overwhelmed and overworked, and others who have little to-dos. Because sometimes, especially if we are in teleworking, if we are all working in different locations, it's actually quite difficult to spot who has a lot of work and who has less work. So if you have an honest capacity check-in with your team, where everyone openly says, I can take on more and I'm overloaded, you can split tasks better and everyone can find more balance in their weeks. Yeah, so I think that is all actually I wanted to share. I shared so much and so quickly. I hope it was helpful for all of you. super much looking forward to seeing or hearing your questions. By the way, we also work with teams online and in person if you think, okay, I don't want to take the whole course, but my team needs support with communication, with setting up structures, and we can also help with that. Feel free to connect with me if I can ever help you in any way. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Johanna, for this inspiring session and for sharing such a useful tool with us. It's clear that focusing on well-being is not just important of our events, but also for the people behind the event. So now I would like to ask to all of you if you have any question. If you don't feel comfortable saying it loud, you can just write it in the chat and I will be reading it for our speaker. I think that, yeah. So we will have some minutes to answer some questions.
If you don't have questions, I would really love to hear actually what you are maybe doing already at your events or in your teams. Yes, to answer the question on the chat, yes, we also often work with HR actually. If you want to ask your question in more detail, feel free to speak as well.
May I ask a question? I'm sorry, I'm not used to Zoom, so I don't know how to put up my hand. So
it's no problem. We can hear and see perfectly.
Good. This is Pia from Tampere, Finland. I want to thank you. It was super interesting, and I think I got some tools also for just my daily work, which is really, really good. But I just wanted to comment. It must be so difficult to have an event for people from many different cultures and many different types of people. I'm thinking of myself, for example, about timing of the conference. If we have a session beginning at 9 and we're still sitting there at 9:15 and it hasn't begun, I'm super stressed because I've come there early for it to start. And then on the other side, we have people who think like, well, 9 doesn't actually mean 9, it means 9:15. And that must be really, really hard to sort of take into consideration when planning the whole program, I'm sure.
Yeah, indeed, there are a lot of different things to consider. And that's why it's interesting, for example, when you do the participant journey, actually to think of all the, like if you know, for example, we have a lot of people from this culture and a lot of people from here and so on, to think about how you can make it a good journey for all. And then, of course, it's about clear communication. So if you say, for example, at our event, we start on the spot at this time, so you need to be there. If it's clearly communicated, normally people from every culture can understand it and for that event and be there at that moment. And if you know, for example, I have a group where, because you have experience with them, they always arrive late, so we end up starting late. Then normally what you can do is, for example, schedule a half an hour of arrival time, and you say arrive, for example, between 9 and 9:30. In that time, you grab your coffee, you network, and then we on the spot start at 9:30. But then you know you gave this room for people to arrive. So I think, yeah, that's a very good point that you make, and indeed something to consider. But overall, also what we can think is that all humans have the main basic requirements for events, meaning, for example, if we feel easily lost, all humans feel bad because we don't like to be lost. Same if we don't have access to food or we don't know when there's the next food and we can't find food that we can eat. All humans are stressed because we need food. And if we can't drink water, it's also a basic requirement. And if we don't feel safe at the event, for example, then also all of us don't feel good. So I think we can start with the basic requirements, because now if you go to events, you will notice that at some events, the basic requirements are not met, actually. You come, you don't know where to go. You don't know when the next break is, when you can eat. You don't know where you can find people from your group, and you are lost. And then, yeah, so if the basic needs are not met, already the event is off to a bad start. So I think even that is good to consider.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other question or comment? Yes, I'm going to leave my email address in case that you have any questions about this webinar or any upcoming webinar. I'm going to share with you, if that's possible, the presentation of this webinar and the recording. You can also find it on the website, but after the webinar, you can send me an email and I will be in contact with you. Okay, so Johanna, would you like to say something before ending the session?
No, I think just thank you so much for having me. And I hope this was helpful for everybody. If someone uses the participant journey and it improves their event or any of the other tools I shared, I would love to hear from you. And yeah, good luck with your next events, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, have a good day.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
good
much.
day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.